Welcome everybody, I'm Burner. This is The Walking Dead Road to Survival, and we are back to discuss a little bit of stuff and things. If for some reason you didn't know, during the week, this happened. That's right, we're going to talk about the Great Wendy Swarm of 2016. If you've been living under a rock this week, there was a blitz war at the beginning of the week, and in the first few hours, there was some sort of glitch, and 4-star Wendy was dropping in the place of winter holiday ornaments. And those ornaments were supposed to fall at like 40 to 50 a piece. So people were getting 40 to 50 Wendy's at a time, and then being the smart players that they were, not needing 40 or 50 Wendy's and knowing that it was a mistake, they went and sold all those Wendy's in the supply depot and then bought up 5-stars. And a lot of them were smart enough to refresh their supply depot and get multiple 5-stars. Scopely got to it pretty quickly, and then this happened. There was an announcement. Johnny Foxtrot went and let us know Wendy's in Blitz. With the launch of our new Blitz War, there was an unintended data issue in the drop rewards during war battles that distributed various amounts of 4-star Wendy instead of winter holiday ornaments as a reward. The issue was identified shortly after the launch of the event, and we already put in a fix for the issue, which stopped the distribution of the character. However, the award was there long enough to grant some highly active users a large number of Wendy's. Ain't that the truth? For this purpose, we are changing the supply depot sell price of Wendy to only be food, and also reducing the amount of XP she gives when leveling up recruits until we properly address the influx of these characters. It seems that Scopely's new motto is, when in doubt, nerf it out. We thank you for your patience during this hiccup in the winter holiday events, and we will be updating everybody on the final plans on how we deal with the ramifications of this data error. Enjoy, blah, blah, blah. So, a little bit of plus was Scopely, got to it relatively early, within a few hours. Not everybody got to it. In full transparency, I did not get a whole bunch of Wendy's. I was at work that day. I saw my group was going for it. And then by the time I'd seen a message, they were already gone. And there are tons of other people that didn't get Wendy's. If you're on the other side of the world, it was late at night. More than likely you weren't up raiding unless, you have one of those situations where you didn't have anything to do the next day and you could be and you wanted to. Or, this was a blitz war. It was only 6-on-6, so there's tons of active players that were on but were in reserves and didn't get any of these Wendy's. And then also in the greater scope of a faction, when everybody's running after something like this, obviously with value, there's 30 people in a faction and only 6 of them can be in at a time. So tons of people didn't get any of these Wendy's for one reason or another. Later on the same day, we got a follow-up from Johnny Foxtrot. A similar message will reach you via your game. This is the one that we probably all saw in our inbox in-game. Thank you all for patience while we investigate the issue that resulted in many, many Wendy's being awarded to some players via war battles. They even tell you many, many Wendy's. In an effort to address this issue as fairly as possible for all groups of players, in the near future, we will remove all incorrectly awarded Wendy's, supply points received from selling those Wendy's, and supply depot purchases made with supply points gained in this way. This specifically includes characters purchased from the supply depot, and while we want to avoid causing any frustration, we're afraid we won't be able to refund any items used to level or upgrade these characters, so do not invest in them any further. Note, in order to avoid complications with your game, we highly recommend taking any characters purchased from the supply depot off any of your current teams. We'll be giving a gift to all players in the next few days to help make up for the trouble, as well as returning any coins that players use to refresh the supply depot. So some big takeaways there. Many Wendy's, fairly as possible for all groups of players, and a gift to all, and returning any coins. Those are kind of some big parts there. And then today we got this. Earlier this week, we outlined our plan of action with regard to the unintended distribution of Wendy's to players participating in the midweek war. As we moved towards implementing the plan, complications arose that made us less confident that we could perform the clawback without causing potential issues with players' accounts. With that in mind, we eliminated the original plan in its entirety and determined that the best way forward is to take no further action on this issue. So, with that in mind, we decided that original plan was crap, and you know what? We shouldn't even have a plan. The plan should be do nothing. Do nothing is not a plan. So Scopely thought that in the hindsight of a lot of players getting many Wendy's, that the fairest possible thing for all groups of players was to not do anything. Thank you for your patience and understanding and cooperation during this time. That being said, we want to hear your thoughts on this. We may not be able to respond to all your posts. Please know that the development team will be reading this thread and considering your feedback on this issue. And just as a little snarky aside, that last post was put up at 2:56 p.m. today, and by the time that I'm doing this video, there have been 266 replies to it, and not a single one is from a Scopely employee. So that lets you how much they really want to hear your thoughts, and will be able to respond. So let's talk about it. I'm going to do my best to not take a particular player angle on this issue, and not, say one side's right or the other, who is what's fair and what's not fair, but instead I want to talk about Scopely's handling of the game. You guys heard it recently in the stuff and things I did about the trashing of Where's the Smoke. They're just not handling things very well. And let's go over a few of them. So in sort of recent history that's, brought up a lot of vitriol from the community, we've had the armory glitch, where people have continued to complain about, talk about the effect it's having on some regions and how it is really hurting competition in those regions. This is something that has also directly affected Scopely's bottom line, because these high-level parts, if you weren't able to basically just keep running your way into them, you'd probably get some crate sales, which would bring in some money from coin purchases. And once they knew about this, once it became evident to them that this glitch was being exploited, we would mostly agree within the community that they took way too long to fix the glitch, and that's all they did. They did nothing but fix the glitch. And on many regions and for many players, this issue is still largely unresolved. Like, they still want more resolution to this, and unfortunately, in my opinion, it's probably gone too far for them to really do anything much more. I mean, they're not going to be able to go that far back and try and determine who's glitched these weapons or not. I mean, probably one of the only things they could do is default everybody's weapon back to its base state. I mean everybody. That's about the only thing they can do that would even remotely affect the people who took advantage of this glitch and kind of balanced the field out. And I doubt they'll do that. The next thing we saw, was the one I mentioned earlier, the trashing of Where's the Smoke. And let's be clear, this wasn't a glitch. You can argue whether it was an exploit, but it was a normally functioning part of the game that Scopely put in. It was a mission that had a chance, if you met certain criteria and procced a certain bonus encounter, would give you coins. And players that, found a way to maximize the value from that mission. Sure, one of the things that led to it getting attention was somebody that had just completely abused this ability and was basically gloating about it. And it was something that did directly affect their bottom line as well. Uh, Coins were being used for any number of things, and there's so many of them that you can easily argue that either players wouldn't have had that many pulls or that they would have had to buy coins. So directly affected the bottom line on there. And once they knew, they completely annihilated the mission. I mean, that mission is worthless now. There's nothing to gain from that. I mean, world energy, it's not a big thing. Maybe if you're first starting out, it might get you happy for a little while, but you'll quickly progress past a point where that is even valuable to you. They put in the higher level mission changes, you know, the 5 missions to give 50 coins, but those are all long missions with long cooldown periods. And instead of having Where's the Smoke, which would, cool down and run through quickly, say at 70% success, now you have these missions that are taking 4, 8 a day, and when they're only proccing at 70% in a day, and then they have a cooldown of more days. Like it's not even close to the claim they made of more people finding that they actually increased in coins. I find that very, very unlikely that that's happening. And then today, or this week rather, we have this Wendy glitch, and this does directly affect their bottom line because people have turned these supply depot points from all these Wendy's into 5 stars. And you might think, well, supply depot points, like that's not really their bottom line. But it is, because those of us who turn over a lot of supply depot points get them from a specific place. And that's premier recruits. People using coins to make pulls and only getting 3 stars that they don't need, turn those into supply depot points and then 5 stars. So this is directly affecting their bottom line. But once they knew, they took care of it pretty quickly, I would say, and it was stopped. And so here's my problem with their decision to do nothing. The do nothing plan, if you will, is there's no consistency in fixing the issues in their game. Armory glitch, they just shut it down, didn't do anything. Where's the Smoke? They obliterated it, took it out of there. There's nothing even close to that in the game anymore. The Wendy glitch, let's not do anything. There's just no consistency in it. What are the reasons for that? I mean, the one that's probably easiest to joke about is that maybe they don't have the technical skill to do it. Maybe they're not that great of developers. Maybe they can't really manage their game well and do what they want. I find that hard to believe. I think that they're all skilled. They do make a quality product. It looks great. It generally plays well. I think they could do something if they wanted to. Is it foresight? Maybe they don't have something in their code or their system that is allowing them to roll back to a far enough point. Obviously there's some sort of check and balance in there so that, especially since the whole armory thing where you have to continually bounce to the server for checks before things go through. So I know they do have some version of your data. It just might be that there's only one of it and it's the last time you checked in. And so maybe something they need to do is start backing up, the night before. Like it hits midnight, they save that number or whatever. Somebody I heard on the forum saying, before an event, have it. And those would definitely make it easier. I don't know if they do that already. Maybe that's the problem. But here is my other thought: money. And that's because this Wendy glitch didn't just affect their bottom line from these supply depot points, but the way people got supply depot points affected their bottom line. Because to get these Wendy's, people were actively making purchases. They were buying more war cans so that they could do more battles. They were also refreshing the supply depot. So within this glitch, they made money. And I think that's a big factor. I think the money is the most likely factor on why they won't roll back accounts and why they decided to do nothing. Because what would they do about these coins? They'd have to return all these coins, and a good number of them were purchased coins. These weren't, some of them were surely coins that were saved up, but a lot of people purchased coins for the strict reason to buy cans and to reset their supply depot. Those were actual purchases. My other is the holidays. And I hate to say it, and I would get it in their circumstances. I wouldn't want to either, but it's a little cruel. I'm gonna say they're too lazy. Like they don't want nobody there wants to try and get this done as soon as possible, especially if it means missing the holidays, potentially traveling somewhere, but at the very least spending time with their family and relaxing and having a great weekend. That is just human nature. I think every single one of us would agree if we were in that job, we would either want to put this off until after, but we definitely wouldn't want to go work through the holidays on it. It's probably not that important to them. So they did this, the do nothing plan. And, for me, it's just another step into me losing hope about the future of the game and also just general interest in the game. If you're a sub of mine, you've probably seen that there's a little bit of a drop off in my resources compared to normal. And a lot of part of it's been this loss of interest. I still play the game as much as I always did. I still play the actual parts of the game and the events, but I'm not spending extra time. I don't do any grinding for preparations. When's the last time we saw a solo level up? Like, there's no reason for me to be farming resources to store them away. Just for faction level up, I can usually kind of casually get enough together to really impact my team. There's no need to grind farming. I play it casually. I'll farm 13-3, but there's a lot of times in the past couple of weeks where I go to bed with world energy. Like, there's no event farming to be had. Like, what am I really supposed to be farming for? I mean, it's weapons and really nothing at all, and we all know those are random. They don't always fall very quickly. But because of that, because I'm not spending extra time on doing these other things, I'm also not spending a lot of time doing the coin offers and videos that I normally do. I do look at coins a little bit, but you can see my coins are creeping up a lot slower than normal. I haven't looked at a Tapjoy offer in a couple of weeks. But like I said, I still do the basic things. I participate in faction events and wars and solo stuff like that. But like my interest to do all this extra stuff, to put in the extra work in the game, it's not there. And that's about where I am. I wasn't joking when I said that I'm kind of hit this point where I'm looking for the next best thing. And more than likely, what's going to happen is like the power creep is just going to keep going until my current squad is too weak to be competitive, and like at that point maybe I'll get kicked out of the faction if it's that bad. But more than likely I'll probably just walk away at that point. I haven't already. I don't plan to, as long as I'm enjoying it and my team is competitive. But let's be honest, I don't know how long that's going to hold out. And you know what, March to War's on the horizon, guys. I think that might be enough just for us to try something new. So, this move by Scopely, the do nothing plan, is it the best decision? I don't know. Is it the fairest possible to all groups of players? I don't know that either. But what I do know is it's just another in a long line of actions from Scopely that sort of that just alienate a large portion of their user base, and I just don't know how much longer they can keep doing this. But let me know what you think. Comment below. Let me know what your thoughts on the whole Wendy Swarm fiasco have been. Let me hear both sides of it, guys. As always, if you enjoy, please like. If you're new and you want to see more, please subscribe. I'm going to be around until it is the end. I promise you that. See you next time.